The moment Clyde Weston read my resignation letter, his face went white, not pale, white, like someone had cut the power to him. He sat there behind his desk, holding the paper with both hands, and for about 8 seconds the man said absolutely nothing. 8 seconds doesn't sound like much. But when you've spent 18 years building something for a person, when you've given up weekends, evenings, a better offer, and a piece of your own pride, and they threw it all away in a conference room in front of 30 people, 8 seconds of watching them fall apart is worth something. My name is Hank Pruitt. I'm 54 years old. I'm a senior hydraulic systems technician, and for nearly 2 decades, I was the guy who kept Weston Industrial Supply running. That morning in Clyde's office was the end of one chapter. But the real story starts 8 months before that, on a rainy Tuesday when he called me in and asked me to save everything. Clyde closed the door behind me, which he didn't usually do. He stood near the window with his arms crossed, not sitting, which meant he wanted to look like he was doing me a favor. "Hank," he said, "the Phoenix line is in trouble. Real trouble, I already knew." The Phoenix line was our hydraulic actuator assembly operation, parts we built for Lockheed Martin under a contract worth $320,000 a quarter. The previous lead tech had left 4 months earlier and nobody had properly picked up his documentation. Tolerances were off. The assembly protocol hadn't been touched in 2 years. Brenda Cutler, Lockheed's procurement officer, had flagged us twice already. The third flag would end the contract. "I need you to fix it," Clyde said. "Full rebuild, whatever it takes. And if I do," I asked. He didn't hesitate. "The supervisor role is yours. You have my word, Hank." I looked at him for a moment. Clyde had a way of sounding sincere that had taken me years to recognize wasn't the same as actually being sincere. But I wanted to believe him. After 18 years, I still wanted to believe him. "Put it in an email," I said. He laughed a little, like I was being overly cautious, but he sent it that afternoon. "Fix the line. Hank, the supervisor role is yours," his name at the bottom. I saved it to 3 places. I always save everything. The first 6 weeks were the worst. The Phoenix documentation was a disaster. Half-finished procedures, missing torque specs, inspection checkpoints that existed on paper, but not in practice. The previous tech had been patching things together for so long that nobody knew what was original and what was improvised. I started from scratch. Rewrote every step of the assembly protocol. Recalibrated the inspection process for each actuator housing. Set up a proper materials verification system so we'd know what we were getting before it hit the floor. 2 months and our materials supplier in Ohio sent us the wrong aluminum alloy. The parts looked identical until you stress tested them. I caught it during a sample check at 6 in the morning on a Saturday. We had $28,000 worth of actuator housing staged for shipping. Every single one would have failed under operational load. I called the supplier, documented the deviation, and had a corrected order confirmed before Clyde even knew there was a problem. I didn't tell him until Monday because there was nothing left to tell. I'd already handled it. He nodded when I briefed him. "Good catch," he said. And that was it. 3 months later, a Lockheed field inspector showed up unannounced. That's never a good sign. He walked through the floor, pulled our documentation binders, and within 20 minutes told me that our signature logs didn't match our personnel records and our measurement protocols weren't consistent across shifts. I asked him to give me the day. I spent 11 straight hours rebuilding the quality system documentation from the ground up. Cross-referenced every log, matched every signature, standardized every protocol form. When I brought him the completed binder at 7 that evening, he flipped through it slowly, making notes. "This is better than what most facilities maintain," he said. "Who put this together?" "I did," I said. He wrote my name down, made a point of asking me to spell it. The next week, Clyde stood in front of the department and announced that we'd successfully held the Lockheed contract through what he called strong departmental leadership. He made eye contact with everyone in the room at some point during that speech. He never once looked at me. I told myself it didn't matter. The promotion was coming. What was another few months? Carol noticed before I said a word when I got home that evening. She was at the kitchen table with her laptop, and she looked up and read my face the way she'd been doing for 26 years. "Rough day?" she asked. "No," I said, "just tired." She went back to her screen. She knew I'd talk when I was ready. That's one of the things I've always counted on about Carol. She doesn't push. She just stays. I poured a glass of water and stood at the counter thinking about 11 hours of documentation work that had just been absorbed into someone else's reputation. Then I thought about the email I'd saved and I let it go for now. Brenda Cutler sent a formal letter to Clyde 6 months into the project. She addressed it to him, but she mentioned me by name 3 times. Hank Pruitt's systematic overhaul of the Phoenix Assembly documentation represents the most substantive quality improvement we've seen from a Tier 2 supplier in recent years. We are recommending Weston Industrial for expanded contract consideration based on this work. I found out about the letter because Pete Caldwell mentioned it in passing near the tool crib. Heard Lockheed sent something good about you, he said. Clyde was showing it around this morning. I walked to Clyde's office and knocked. The Lockheed letter, I said. Can I get a copy? Already planning to forward it, he said, waving his hand. Good work, Hank. He forwarded it 3 days later. By then I'd already walked past the conference room and seen something that made my stomach tighten. Clyde was in there alone, running through his quarterly board presentation on the projector. I slowed down near the door. The slide on screen was titled Management Initiated Process Improvements Q3. Under it, in clean bullet points, my assembly protocol rewrite, my materials verification system, my inspector audit response, described as strategic initiatives, attributed to departmental leadership. My name appeared once near the bottom of the notes section. Project Support H. Pruitt. I stood there for a moment. Then I kept walking. That evening, I went to his office before the shift ended. You're presenting my work as management initiatives, I said, closing the door. He looked up from his laptop with the expression of a man who had been expecting this conversation and had already decided how to handle it. I'm presenting the department's results, he said. That includes your contributions. It doesn't include my name, Hank. He leaned back. You're a technician. I'm a manager. That's how reporting works. Your time will come. You said the supervisor role was mine, and it will be. We're still in process. He opened his laptop again, which was his way of telling me the conversation was over. Don't make this into something it isn't. I walked home that night the long way, 18 years. I'd turned down a job offer 2 years earlier, $19,000 more per year from a competing firm out of Columbus. Clyde had pulled me aside when he heard about it. Don't do that, Hank. You're too valuable here. We'll make it right. I believed him. I called Columbus and said no. Carol had asked me afterward if I was sure. Yeah, I said, loyalty matters. She didn't argue. She rarely does. But I remember the look she gave me, not skeptical, just careful. Like she was filing something away for later. By month 7, the Phoenix line was running cleaner than it ever had. 0 defects across 2,400 actuator housings. On-time delivery every single week. Brenda Cutler had personally called to say Lockheed was expanding our order volume in Q1. The word around the floor was that the supervisor announcement was coming. Pete told me during a break. Everyone knows it's you, Hank. There's nobody else it could be. Marty Shelton said the same thing. Even a couple of the older machinists, guys who kept to themselves and didn't say much about anything, started treating me differently. They'd ask my opinion on process questions. Nod when I walked through their section. I let myself believe it. That was my mistake. The department meeting was a Friday morning, 30 people in a room built for 20. Clyde stood at the front with his hands in his pockets, relaxed like a man who already knew exactly how the next 10 minutes were going to go. Before we get into numbers, he said, I want to make a leadership announcement. Pete caught my eye from across the room, small nod. Neil Weston will be stepping into the operations supervisor role, effective immediately. The name didn't connect right away, then it did. Neil Weston, Clyde's son. 29 years old, MBA from a school in Ohio I'd never heard of. I'd seen him in the building 4 times in the past year. He'd once asked me where the hydraulics bay was, the largest room in the facility, with signage on 2 walls. Neil stood up and straightened his jacket. He glanced at his phone and read, I'm really excited to leverage our core systems and drive cross-functional synergy across the Phoenix deliverables. I think there's a lot of opportunity to optimize our operational bandwidth going forward. Someone coughed. One of the machinists near the back stared at the floor. A production scheduler I'd worked with for 6 years looked at her hands. Neil didn't know what operational bandwidth meant in a hydraulics context. He didn't know the difference between an actuator housing and a valve block. He had never read a torque specification in his life. But he smiled when Clyde started the applause, and Clyde smiled back at him, and that was that. My hands stayed in my lap. After the meeting, the room emptied fast. People moved through the doorway without making eye contact. The way they do when something uncomfortable has happened, and nobody wants to be the first to name it. Pete walked past me and put his hand briefly on my shoulder. It didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Clyde caught me in the hallway before I reached the door. Hank, he kept his voice low. I need you to bring Neil up to speed, help him find his footing. You're the backbone of this operation. That doesn't change. I looked at him. You made me a promise. Neil has support from the ownership level, he said, which was a careful way of saying Neil had support from himself. You understand how these things work. Be a team player right now. I didn't answer. I just looked at him long enough that he glanced away first. That evening, I was heading out to my truck when I passed the break room. Door was open. Neil was in there with two guys from admin, laughing about something. Look, Neil was saying, settling back in his chair. We just need younger energy running the floor. Fresh thinking. Old school approaches only get you so far, you know? I was 54 years old. I had rebuilt that floor from the ground up over 8 months. I had spent 11 hours in a room with a Lockheed inspector so that this company still had a contract to manage. I kept walking, but something shifted in me on the way to the parking lot. Something quiet and final, like a door closing. I didn't quit the next morning. I want to be clear about that, because what I did next was the part that actually mattered. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and wrote 2 columns. Stay, leave under. Stay, I wrote. Steady paycheck, known environment, 18 years of seniority. Under leave, I wrote self-respect, real future, a chance to stop pretending. The leave column was shorter, but every item in it weighed more. Carol came in around 10 and saw the pad. She sat down across from me without saying anything, read both columns, then looked up. You already know which one, she said. It's not that simple. It is, though. She folded her hands on the table. You've been miserable for months, Hank. And it's only going to get worse if you stay. We've got the mortgage. Your hours got cut last fall. We've got savings. And I can pick up more bookkeeping clients. We'll be fine, she said it, the way she says things when she's already run the numbers and isn't interested in debating them. What I'm not fine with is watching you shrink. I looked at her for a moment. I'll think about it, I said. She nodded and went to bed. She knew what thinking about it meant. I spent the next 3 weeks doing my job exactly the way I always had. Perfect work, no drop-off, nothing anyone could point to. But I also did something else. Every process I'd built over 8 months, every protocol, every schematic, every calibration procedure, I organized it in a system that only I fully understood. Nothing was broken, nothing was missing. It was all technically there, but it wasn't handed to anyone on a plate. Neil would need someone to walk him through every layer of it, and that someone was not going to be me. Then I made a phone call. Roy Stanton was the regional engineering director at Atlas Systems Group, a firm out of Canonsburg that did similar defense sector supply work. I'd met Roy twice at industry events. We'd talked long enough both times that I knew he was straight. No games. He'd heard of my work through Brenda Cutler's network at Lockheed. Roy, I said, I might be making a move, sooner rather than later. There was a pause, then, how soon can you come in? I had the interview on a Thursday afternoon. Roy asked me one question that stopped me cold. What do you need to do your best work? I thought about it. Nobody at Weston had ever asked me that. Not once in 18 years. Clear expectations, I said. Real authority over my area. And leadership that keeps its word. He nodded slowly. That's what we do here. By the end of that afternoon, Atlas had offered me the position. Engineering manager. Team of 8, direct client relationships. Salary 18% higher than what I was making at Weston. I accepted before I got back to my truck. The resignation letter took me 4 minutes to write. 2 sentences. Clean, factual, no emotion. I printed it, then printed one more thing and paper clipped it to the front. Clyde's email from 8 months ago. Fix the line, Hank. The supervisor role is yours. I walked into his office on a Wednesday morning. He was on the phone, feet up on the edge of his desk, laughing at something. He held up a finger. I set the letter on his desk and stepped back. He wrapped up the call, still smiling, picked up the papers without looking at me. Read the first line of the resignation. The smile dropped. Then he saw the email underneath. And I watched his face go through 3 or 4 things in about 2 seconds before it landed on something close to panic. He set the papers down carefully, like they might break. Hank, his voice came out quieter than usual. Stop, don't do this. It's already done, I said. I can fix this. We can create a senior tech role, oversight responsibilities, more pay. No. He stood up. You can't walk out on the Phoenix line. Neil doesn't have the depth yet. Lockheed is counting on continuity. That's your problem to solve, I said. Not mine. His tone shifted. Harder now, the charm gone. If you walk out that door, don't expect a reference from me. You're burning your own future here. I put my hand on the doorframe. Neil has the MBA, I said. Let him read the schematics. I walked out. And I want to tell you there was some big feeling in that moment, relief, triumph, something cinematic. But it wasn't like that. It was quieter than I expected. Just one foot in front of the other, down the hall, through the bay, out to the parking lot. The air outside was cold and smelled like iron from the foundry 2 blocks over. I sat in my truck for a minute before I started it. 18 years. I'd given that place 18 years. I'd turned down better money, worked weekends I'll never get back, fixed problems that weren't mine to fix, and I'd done all of it because I believed it was going somewhere. It had gone somewhere, just not where I was supposed to go with it. I started the truck and drove home. Carol was in the kitchen when I came through the door. She looked up from her laptop. Well? She asked. I quit, I said. She closed the laptop, slowly. Then she looked at me for a long moment, reading whatever was on my face. Good, she said. That was it. 2 letters. And somehow it was exactly enough. I poured a glass of water and stood at the counter, and for the first time in 8 months I didn't think about torque specs or inspection logs or what Clyde might say in a meeting I wasn't in. I just stood there, quiet. It was a strange feeling. I'd forgotten what it felt like to have nothing left to prove to someone. The messages started coming in 4 days after I left. Pete Caldwell first. Nobody knows who owns what anymore. Clyde's running around putting out fires. Neil keeps asking the machinists questions they shouldn't have to answer. Then Marty Shelton. Neil asked me what a deviation report was. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Then Neil himself, which I hadn't expected. His message came in on a Thursday afternoon. Hey Hank, quick question. I'm looking at the actuator housing schematics, and I can't locate the inspection checkpoint sequence you built into the protocol. Any chance you can walk me through where to find it? I read it twice. Then I typed back, you'll need to work through current Weston staff on that. Good luck. I didn't hear from him again. 10 days after I left, Brenda Cutler at Lockheed sent a quality hold notice to Weston Industrial. Neil had approved a change order with incorrect torque specifications on a secondary valve assembly. The error affected a staged shipment worth $31,000 and halted part of the line, while Weston scrambled to identify the problem. Brenda's notice was professional and precise, the way she always was, but the message underneath it was clear enough. Pete sent me a 1-line text that evening. It's bad over here. I put my phone down and went to bed. About 2 weeks after the hold notice, Wanda Pryor reached out. Wanda was VP of Operations, 2 levels above Clyde, based out of the company's regional office in Harrisburg. We'd spoken maybe a dozen times over the years, always professionally, always briefly. Her message was direct. Hank, I need to verify something. Were you the primary engineer on the Phoenix line for the past 8 months? I replied the same day. Yes. Here's the documentation timeline. Here are the process logs, the change orders, the supplier deviation reports. All signed by me, all dated. Here's the Lockheed commendation letter that mentioned my name 3 times. She wrote back within an hour. Thank you. This is helpful. 2 days later, Lou Merritt called. Lou was Weston's internal compliance reviewer, a quiet, methodical guy I'd always respected because he didn't have a dog in any fight. He told me he was conducting a review of the Phoenix project documentation following the quality hold. He told me there were inconsistencies between Clyde's board submissions and the underlying technical records. He told me my name appeared repeatedly in the source documents while someone else's name appeared in the executive summaries. I can send you everything I have, I said. Please, he said. All of it. I spent that evening organizing files, remails, logs, inspection records, process sheets. The original protocol drafts with my timestamps, the supplier deviation report from the aluminum alloy incident, the 11-hour inspector audit response, the Lockheed commendation, and the email Clyde's own words, paper clipped to the front of everything. I sent it all to Lou the next morning, then Clyde called. I watched his name on the screen until it stopped. He called twice more over the next 2 days. I let both go. On the 3rd day, a text came through. Hank, I made a mistake. Come back and we'll make it right. The supervisor title is yours. Name your terms. I read it standing in my kitchen. Carol was at the counter behind me, and I handed her the phone without saying anything. She read it, handed it back. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Lou Merritt with a single line. "Received this today," adding it to the record. Then I blocked the number. Lou called me the following Monday. He spoke carefully, the way people do when they're telling you something significant and want to make sure the words land correctly. Clyde had been misrepresenting work authorship in client-facing documentation going back at least 3 quarters. The board had been making decisions based on performance metrics that didn't accurately reflect who had produced the results. Lockheed had provided their own independent assessment that contradicted Clyde's submissions at multiple points. And Clyde's text message, the one offering me the supervisor title after the fact, had confirmed in his own words that the promise had been real and that he'd knowingly withheld it. "The board met this morning," Lou said. "Clyde Weston has been terminated. Neil has been reassigned to an administrative support role. There will be a formal statement issued internally next week." I thanked him and set the phone down on the table. I sat there for a minute. I didn't feel the way I thought I would. No surge, no fireworks. Just something settling, the way a room gets quiet after a loud noise finally stops. I went back to work. My first week at Atlas Systems was the most normal week I'd had in years. No emergency calls before sunrise, no Sunday dread, no sense that the whole operation was one bad decision away from collapse. Roy ran a tight, honest shop. People knew their jobs. When something went wrong, it got fixed without anyone needing to hide it or take credit for the fix. At my first team meeting, Roy asked what I needed to do my best work. Same question he'd asked at the interview. I gave him the same answer, and he nodded the same way, and I realized he asked it regularly, not as a formality, but because he actually wanted to know. 5 months in, Atlas Systems won the Lockheed contract that Weston Industrial had just lost. Brenda Cutler told Roy directly, "We followed Hank, not the company." I heard that secondhand from Roy on a Friday afternoon. He said it the way you say something you think a person deserves to hear. I thanked him and went back to what I was doing. That weekend, my son Garrett called. He's 27, works as an electrician out near Cannonsburg, and he'd been watching the whole situation from the sidelines without saying much. "Dad," he said, "you always told me loyalty matters." "It does," I said. "Did it though, in this case?" I thought about it for a second. Not the quick, easy answer, the real one. "Yeah," I said. I just had it pointed at the wrong person for too long. He was quiet for a moment. "Fair enough," he said. And that was the right answer. Not because it tied everything up neatly, but because it was true. Here's what I know after all of it. If you've been carrying a place on your back for years, fixing what others break, staying when you could have left, believing that doing good work would eventually be enough, and someone keeps moving the finish line, that's not bad luck. That's a decision they're making about you. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to make a scene. You just have to be honest about what you're worth and go find someone who already knows it. The work doesn't lie. It never did, and neither will yours.